Alright, so today I'm gonna be reacting to I spent $10,000 making the perfect water bottle. And how do you even spend $10,000? How? Especially on a water bottle? What type of water bottle is this? That should better have teleportation techniques, bro. As soon as I need water, it does some crazy shit. Cause 10,000 is insane. But yeah, let's just get straight to it, man.
I spent $10,000 making this water bottle. But it gets worse. It also took me over 2 years and several mental breakdowns to create.
2 years?
Oh, and when I say 10 grand, I mean at least 10 grand. It's definitely way higher. As I'm filming this right now, I literally don't know how much money I've spent. But by the end of this video, we're gonna figure it out by going through every single phase of this product development journey. I'm a little nervous myself. March 27th, 2022. That's the day Will Smith slapped Chris Rock at the Oscars. But 3 months after that is when my story begins, when I first bought my 3D printer.
Bro, 2 years. Like, how are you even this committed to making the perfect water bottle? Some people are not committed to do the stuff that they have to do. And look at this guy being committed to making a freaking water bottle. That's just crazy commitment right there.
I was fresh out of college and I already hated my corporate sales job. I needed something else. Using this free software that I found online, I just started mashing shapes together through brute force trial and error and 3D printed them out, attempting to make this idea I had for a clicking water bottle for athletes. After months and months and months of this, I finally had something that clicked. But it leaked everywhere and didn't even have a handle. I bought these giant overpriced springs from Amazon thinking the water had to flow through them for it to work properly. That was absolutely not necessary. I mean, it's kinda cool, I guess, but 5 months, it's pretty trash. I needed professional help to speed this up.
Welcome to Upwork, where you can find, hire, collaborate with, and pay freelance talent all in one place. Whether it's a simple task,
Like making a clicking water bottle that doesn't leak. That's pretty simple, right? So I conducted some interviews with some product designers and I hired someone who I thought would do a good job. From Pakistan.
I really did like him, and he's the least expensive.
At first, things seemed perfect. I was spending like $300 a week and I was watching my crappy prototype designs being transformed into something professional. I finally had someone with the skill to actually transform my idea into a professional reality. But as soon as the freelancer's work went from the computer to an actual physical prototype, progress slowed, endless delays, endless excuses. I even got so fed up with my corporate job that I quit because I believed the freelancer when they told me the project was almost done. Yet every single week, there was another leak that wasn't solved. But it would be solved after just one.
That he quit he said he quit his corporate job because the project was about to be done with the water bottle. But it was definitely far from it.
I believed the freelancer when they told me the project was almost done. Yet every single week, there was another leak that wasn't solved. But it would be solved after just 1 or 2 more weeks of work. Should I pull the plug on the freelancer? What if they actually delivered on their promise that it would be done in a week or 2? I hesitated, even though I knew something was wrong. I failed to set clear timelines and expectations at the beginning because I, had a full-time job and I wasn't in a rush, but this made me not be able to properly evaluate a project. I just kept waiting and waiting, hoping that it would finally work out.
It didn't.
Finally, on June 18th, I couldn't take it anymore and I ended the project. A few weeks later, I got my prototype in the mail and this was my reaction. It doesn't open and close properly and it even leaks. So after 1 year of entrepreneurship, I had one prematurely abandoned sales career, negative $6,000, a new ex-girlfriend, and I moved back in with my parents. All for this water bottle cap from Pakistan that doesn't even work. The one good thing about it though is the Pakistan prototype came with professionally engineered designs. And after evaluating all my options, I decided to send those designs to a manufacturer in China. Okay. I did spend a lot of time researching different places and different companies to send the water bottle designs to, but this Chinese manufacturer was the best option. Because after only a few weeks of bickering back and forth about designs over email at like 3 in the morning, I got a prototype in the mail with 2-day international shipping from China. And this was me testing the water bottle from China for the first time.
Okay,
Check one.
that's
Now,
progress.
closed. Okay, so it's obviously not perfect, but it doesn't
It's not
leak,
bad.
and it's a step in the right direction.
It is
Yeah,
not
we're like
bad.
10 steps in the right direction. Went from this piece of trash to an actual product within like 2 months of working with the Chinese manufacturers. Like, look how happy I am right here. This was the happiest I ever was with a project. Now, it wasn't perfect. Like, the bottle would leak a little bit if the nozzle wiggled the wrong way, and the open and closed positions needed to be swapped. I just thought it looked really wrong how closed was up and open was down. But I was so happy to be almost done with the product. Like, how hard could the last little bit be? Yeah, it was really hard. So just one more prototype should do the trick, right? Nope, doesn't even click anymore. Let's try another design to where the nozzle doesn't wiggle anymore. Nope, it still
That
wiggles.
you see, that is actually insane. To have all of these prototypes, to be then paying these people over there in China to doing the research, to oh, that's just so complicated work right there. And most likely for each of these individual ones, he probably had to wait weeks or even months to just talking back and forth and then wow, and until China ships it out to him. Like there's a lot of time went into this. 10,000. That is insane.
Let's try another design to where the nozzle doesn't wiggle anymore. Nope, it still wiggles. At least let me get some food safe materials so I can properly test it. Okay, well now the bottle just completely doesn't work. Yeah. Each prototype that I got from the Chinese was a little bit better in some small ways. But the big issues, the leaks, the swapping of the directions, still remained present. The Chinese engineers even told me at one point that the open and closed positions couldn't even be swapped. It was not ideal, it looks weird, but you know, I guess I could live with it. But you wouldn't believe what they told me when I was pushing them to fix the nozzle wiggling leak issue. They said, and I quote, "It seems like you have some other ideas about how to use the water bottle." Other ideas? It's a water bottle. You have to be able to use it in rough conditions. It's not like a princess trophy, like the two major issues, the leaking in rough conditions as well as swapped open and closed positions. Both unsolvable according to the experts. And you gotta remember, these experts took my trash prototype and made it something great, something almost usable. But it still definitely wasn't something that I could sell. This was the hardest part in the whole process for me. I mean, you gotta remember, I quit my job to kind of pursue this thing, and it was really hard watching, my friends and their careers start to do really well, and I was just kind of stuck working on this water bottle, and it wasn't really working out.
That's
I
insane.
never really thought about quitting, but
To
I
leave
thought
your
about
job?
thinking about it. I had one more idea to solve this problem, and if that didn't work, I'd have to think about quitting. What was my grand idea, you ask? Back to Upwork, baby, but instead of going with the cheap $28 an hour option, we're going premium product designer this time, $100 an hour. And drawing on my previous wonderful experience from Upwork, I set clear timelines and expectations at the beginning of the project, as well as a fixed cost payment structure instead of hourly, which incentivizes the project to be finished quickly and not drag on, as well as a whole bunch of other conditions. Once again, the work started off really great, but once they made that transition from computer designs to a physical prototype, the delays and excuses started to roll in. I gave a little leeway, to be fair, things happen, but not much. During these delays, I started to analyze the freelancer's work with my own 3D printer, and I really dove into really becoming an expert in professional 3D CAD software. The freelancer actually ended up failing to solve the issue, but because of our prearranged terms and agreements, I was able to recoup a lot of my investment. More importantly though, the freelancer's design gave me an idea to solve the wiggly nozzle leak issue myself. So I crafted my new genius idea on the new professional software I learned and 3D printed it out. And it actually worked on the first try. Like, that never happens. I was blown away. I was blown away by my own genius, and I took my new creation, my working perfect
$8,000
water
so
bottle,
far.
and I ran it around to show all my family and friends. They were like, "Hey, that's pretty cool, but you should change the open and closed directions." Yeah, of course they would say that. I was so annoyed, especially because I knew they were right. I couldn't sleep. I lied awake sketching designs on paper, in my head, anywhere I could think of something to solve this issue. Eventually, I had an idea that kind of made sense, so I went back to the professional software, then to the 3D printer, And it didn't work the first time, or the second time, or the third time, fourth time, fifth time, sixth time, seventh time, eighth time, 10th time, 11th time, 12th time. Eventually, I had something that I thought might just work. So I took my new designs and sent them back to the Chinese manufacturers to see what they thought. They looked it over and polished it into something that could be mass manufactured. And when I looked over the designs, they looked really perfect. $400 later, this arrived in the mail. And my changes actually worked. The positions were finally swapped. Open was up and closed was down. Stop. You knew it wasn't going to be that simple. So the two big problems were solved, but of course, there's a bunch of smaller problems. I've come to think of product design so much as solving a problem by creating a smaller problem, and doing that a few times until the problem's so small that it's not really an issue. But instead of relying on China and paying China to fix these small iterations in the product, I decided to take matters into my own hands and production into my own hands. At this point, my original 3D printer Betsy finally gave up on me, and I honestly can't blame her. She's been basically running for 15 months straight. So enter Brian, my new advanced 3D printer. I also got Brian some fancy new
the amount of money. Now he's bought a new printer. Oh, so he's already at 9,750. That is insane.
nozzles capable of printing a layer height at 0.04 millimeters. That's 1/5 of the size of a grain of sand. If I thought I was 3D printing a lot before, what I was doing now was full-blown madness. I was so hell-bent on doing this myself because I needed to pass out food-grade samples to people, and the Chinese, or really anyone else, weren't really that keen to guarantee food safety, and it was way too expensive to go to a specialist. I became obsessed with every tiny little variable: print orientation, gravity, supports, smoothing, Z-gaps, XY gaps, adhesion, you name it, I was doing it. And don't even get me started on making the silicone O-rings. Every tiny little dimension had to be perfect or else the bottle would start leaking, and there was lots of room to mess up during this process. At this point, it stopped being like a goal that I had and more of a compulsion to work on the water bottle without really an end in sight. Kind of like how a moth just flies toward light. But after months of this psychotic cycle, I finally had a working bottle and it was food safe and ready for real feedback. So I made a few and passed it out to some friends, took their feedback and improved it over and over and over and over again until finally, I have something that I'm truly happy with. And so here's the finished product. It clicks, open and close, of course, has a nice big handle, and it even has a lock/travel mode in case you want to carry it in a bag. And you know, before I reveal the final number about how much money I spent on this water bottle, I want to point out that the money part is the less significant part. The more significant part is the time that I spent on this water bottle and the other opportunities that I gave up to focus on it. I started this project in June of 2022. It's now January 23rd of 2025. It took exponentially longer than I thought it would, and it was exponentially more difficult than I thought it would be. But chasing this dream of owning my own business has been exponentially more rewarding than I thought it would be, and made everything else I do, kind of work-related, seem dull by comparison. So I'd really encourage you to go for something and try something new if you've ever considered it. Which brings me to the final money count of $11,950.
Yo, basically 12,000. 12,000 on a freaking water bottle. And not only that, 2 years. And he explained it well. Over time, he obsessed over it. He obsessed over the idea of making this water bottle. As time went by, he saw that, like, this is possible. Like, I could actually do this. I already have the prototype in my hand. I could see this happening. And he made it happen. So that's fire. That's actually very cool. I respect that a lot. I wish I had that much commitment towards something. And if you can commit like that to literally anything, making a freaking water bottle, making a drawing, making whatever, you could do anything. It doesn't matter how long it takes, it doesn't matter how many resources you have to give up. If you're willing to do everything you have to do something, it's gonna fucking happen. Regardless of the task, it's gonna happen. With all of that said, what are your thoughts on this? Leave some comments down below. With much love, thank you for watching.